So I know that it feels like a million years ago, but back in the 2019 season, the Heat finished with 39 wins, and it was looking kind of rough. They didn't have a star player. Bam was exciting, but it just seemed like they didn't have a lot going for them besides Bam and Spoelstra getting the most out of guys. But they had this thing of like being a tough team that played the right way and brought it defensively, but just how talented really were they, you know? And Miami's ability to flip around their whole future in one offseason is pretty crazy, especially because with the acquisitions they made, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, Tyler Herro, it took a lot of savviness to get these moves done. None of these were simple moves. I mean, the Jimmy one was a sign and trade. Duncan Robinson as well as Kendrick Nunn were undrafted. The closest thing to being normal was selecting Tyler Herro at number 13. I like Herro a lot. I think I had him third in my redraft. The shot making, the confidence. He's got to work on his defense, his handle, reading the game on both sides of the floor. We hope he gets there. He looked good for a rookie. And we assume that Miami's going to do a good job of developing his game. If we just remember some of these things, I mean, the Jimmy Butler trade, doing a sign and trade and getting yourself one of the best players in the league when you are totally capped out because you spend years giving money to Tyler Johnson, Kelly Olynyk, guys like that, it's kind of crazy to think about. I remember the reaction to it. I mean, it was still pretty big, but I don't think it was as big because we heard the rumors for a little bit about Jimmy to Miami, but even then, you got to give them props for committing to him, because I remember there being a bit of hesitancy on Philly's part where they didn't want to give Jimmy the 5th year, and there was a whole bunch of talk, well, what is Jimmy Butler really worth and all that, and Miami's just like, guys, don't overthink this one. Jimmy Butler's really good. We need him. And they also picked a guy who was perfect for their culture. I mean, Jimmy has said on like the JJ Redick pod that he really loves Miami's professional mindset and the expectations that they have. And that's not to say that other teams don't have that, but I think with Miami it's a little more than normal. I mean, they really stress body fat levels for players. And there's other things that I'm probably not remembering, but it's the Pat Riley thing. You know, he brings it from the top and it works its way all the way down to the playing floor. And kudos to Miami for also not falling too in love with an asset. I mean, the main thing that moved to Philly for Jimmy Butler was Josh Richardson. In fact, that was the one thing Philly got in the move. And I think it's possible sometimes for teams to just like their guy a little too much and perhaps attach too much sentimental value to him, whereas Miami was just like, listen, Josh, we like you, but Jimmy's the better player and we have to get him. And Jimmy was great this year. I think I had him for third team NBA. Maybe not. I don't remember exactly, but Jimmy was awesome this season. And again, I feel like he really found the place that's perfect for him, especially because I don't know if Jimmy really wants to be a big scorer. I mean, he averaged 20 a game this year, but he was more about his rebounding, his passing, playing really hard on defense, shot 1 million free throws, so he was really good. But of course, there's other guys here between Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn, two undrafted guys from the 2018 draft. The Kendrick Nunn story, he was really good his last year in college for Oakland, but 6'2", score first, smaller college, teams were not chomping at the bit to draft Nunn in the teens or the 20s or even the second round. He went undrafted. He had some workouts for teams. He was on the Warriors G League team. The Kings worked out with him. And everybody was like, yeah, this guy can play. And then in swoops in the Miami Heat to say, we think we can get this guy going in the right direction. And he was one of the better rookies. I mean, I'm pretty sure I had him for all rookie first team. At least I'm guessing that I did. I'm not going to go back and check because I'm lazy, but he was very good. It's safe to say. And respect to Miami for just throwing him right in there. I mean, to give a rookie the starting job, he started 62 games, and to allow him to play his game from the jump, that is pretty gutsy. I mean, Goran Dragic was the sixth man, basically behind Kendrick Nunn. I have no idea how that conversation with Dragic went, but Miami was right for doing that. I feel like that's the kind of thing where if you don't have a certain infrastructure with your culture and everything, that can go south quickly, because we saw with Dragic what happened when Phoenix signed Isaiah Thomas and Bledsoe. He was not happy. Now, he was younger. I mean, Dragic is 32, 33 at this point, so maybe he's just willing to accept that kind of thing now, but you have to assume, because it's Miami, that type of thing went over better than when a kind of similar thing happened in Phoenix. And now if we can get to Duncan Robinson, shooting extraordinaire. Similar to Kendrick Nunn, 2018 draft, not drafted at all. And his story, it's not as interesting as Kendrick Nunn's. It's a little more standard. Seems like they just signed him not long after he wasn't selected. And they were committed to his development from the beginning. And I guess this is where you can praise Miami, because some guys, they end up on a team and they just kind of get dropped. I mean, his first year, he played 15 games. So basically he didn't play. He was behind the scenes the entire time, taking up a roster spot. Or maybe he was on a two-way or something. I mean, I have to imagine I don't know. Maybe he was like the 13th or 14th guy the whole season. But he was given the chance this year, and Miami's investment on him paid off. To think about the way that a Duncan Robinson can go wrong for a team, you think about Spencer Dinwiddie, where the Pistons let him go, and then he ends up being really good in Brooklyn. Maybe it was a trade, I don't remember exactly, but I have to imagine that Miami would have seen Spencer Dinwiddie and been like, oh, this guy's good, we got to hold on to him, you know? Now, this isn't to say Miami gets it right every time. I'm sure there's something that I haven't thought of them missing out on a good player, but you see it sometimes, you know? You see it where a team has a guy, it's not happening right away, and then they let him go and it ends up happening somewhere else. But sometimes they hang on to him, like Miami did with Robinson. Now, to think about Miami going forward, and this is going to be interesting, it's that after next season, Kendrick Nunn and Duncan Robinson's contracts are going to be up. And I don't know what they're going to get. I mean, they're not going to get huge contracts, I would imagine, but what's a baseline? Like $13 million a year or so? We're going to have to see what the cap is doing and all that, but those are decisions to make. I should have mentioned Derrick Jones as well. His contract is up, and you know, Miami's going to have to decide here, because they want to do stuff in free agency, we imagine. Probably not this offseason. Well, maybe this offseason, to be honest, but you know, Derrick Jones is another one, but I don't think his money is going to be as much. I should talk about Derrick Jones Jr. a bit too. I think he's deserving to be in this whole thing. So, defense, athleticism, finishing at the rim. I feel like he's found a place on the team without being a shooter. To talk about Derrick Jones Jr.'s path a little bit, to be honest, it's kind of similar to other guys, you know? He was on Phoenix, and the Suns never really committed to him for whatever reason. And Miami, once again, just having the know-how to just be like, well, we feel like there's something with this guy, so let's sign him to a two-way contract. This was all the way back in 2017. So he's going to the G League, he's doing all that. And similar to Duncan Robinson, didn't really play much for Miami the first year. He played 14 games, not much. Second year, he plays 19 minutes a game. He was cool. He wasn't awesome. And then this year, I feel like he just took another jump in that type of like Andre Robertson-esque role. I feel like Derrick does a few things to contribute offensively. Like he grabs 1 offensive board a game, shoots 2 free throws a game, and that's, just off of cutting or whatever you will. I don't know if he is a certainty to being on this team long term, but I feel like he was worth mentioning anyway. So yeah, it turns out that acquiring good players makes you a better team. And I just think the way that Miami went about it, and the fact that it all happened in one offseason, it's just kind of cool to appreciate.